All right, folks, pull up a chair. Ethan here, and I've got a fresh one for you, straight from the burbs. This isn't my usual gig, but it's got all the hallmarks of a classic. So picture this, I just moved back into my parents' old place. Sweet little house, needed some TLC, especially on the outside. I've spent a few summers working for a painting company, slinging brushes and rollers to pay the bills, so I figured why not save a buck and get my hands dirty? Plus, I actually enjoy that kind of work. There's something satisfying about transforming a tired old wall. Anyway, I just finished the first coat of primer on the front, sun beating down, and I'm kicking back on my porch steps with an ice-cold beer. Primer's gotta dry, right? And a man's gotta hydrate. I'm mid-sip admiring my handiwork when this woman, let's call her Karen because, well, you'll see, comes strolling by. She stops dead in her tracks, right on the sidewalk and just stares. Not a friendly, "oh, you're painting" stare. More like a "what is that thing doing on that porch" stare. "Excuse me," she finally says, and her voice could curdle milk. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I lowered my beer. "Painting my house," I said, trying for a friendly neighbor vibe. Keyword trying. Her eyes flicked from me to the beer, then back to me, like she just caught me red-handed embezzling funds. "You're drinking on the job." It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "Well," I said, taking a slow, deliberate sip, "when the job is painting my own house and it's break time, the boss is pretty lenient about beverages." I even gave her a little wink. "Bad move, Ethan. Bad move." That seemed to flip a switch. Her face, already pinched, tightened into a mask of pure outrage. "Your employer needs to know about this. This is completely unprofessional, letting people like you work on decent homes, drinking alcohol." "People like me?" I raised an eyebrow. This was escalating faster than a paint spill on a white carpet. "Lady, I am the employer, and the employee, and the homeowner." She scoffed, a harsh, barking sound. "Don't be ridiculous. You own this house. You're clearly just some cheap labor they hired. Probably an uneducated, lazy, freeloading drunk." She spat the last word out like it was poison. "Wow, okay." We went from 0 to 60 there. I sighed, stood up and stretched. My back was a bit stiff from leaning over. I decided, heck, might as well lean into it. I walked down the porch steps, grabbing another beer from the cooler I had stashed near the door as I went. Cracked it open with a satisfying hiss. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice even, "I'm an Ivy League graduate, and yes, this is my house, paid for and everything." Karen's jaw practically unhinged, then it snapped shut. "You expect me to believe that? You're probably a community college dropout who couldn't even afford to hire proper painters, so you're making a mess of it yourself." Her voice was getting louder, drawing a few twitching curtains from the neighbors. I glanced at her dog, a little fluffy thing that looked as stressed as she did. I bent down to offer it a friendly hand. "Hey there, buddy. Your mom seems a bit wound up." That was the spark. "Don't you touch my dog, you degenerate," she shrieked. "You're not even qualified to paint a doghouse, let alone a real home." She actually lunged, grabbing for my arm, I guess to pull me away from her precious fi-fi, or maybe just to pull me. "Whoa," I sidestepped and she stumbled, losing her balance from her own momentum. "Lady, get a grip." My patience, usually pretty robust, was starting to fray. She didn't fall, but she staggered, catching herself on my newly painted and still slightly tacky, damn it, porch railing. "He assaulted me," she started screaming, full-on banshee mode now. This vagrant assaulted me. He's drunk and destroying property." By now, a couple of neighbors were drifting out onto their lawns. Mr. Henderson from across the street, who'd seen me hauling boxes for a week, was already on his phone. Bless that man. Sure enough, a few minutes later, a cruiser rolled up. Karen immediately launched into this wild tale about how I was a trespassing, drunk, unqualified painter who'd attacked her when she tried to question my shoddy work on a house I had no business being at. She was waving her arms, voice cracking with fake tears. It was quite a performance. I just waited, leaned against my porch railing, the non-tacky part, and when she finally paused for breath, I told the officers my side, showed them my ID with the current address. Pointed to the stack of paint cans with my name on the delivery slip, explained I was taking a break. One of the officers, a younger guy, was trying very hard not to smile. The older one just looked tired. He turned to Karen. "Ma'am," he said in that weary voice cops get, "this is his property. He's allowed to paint it. He's allowed to have a beer on his own porch." He then glanced at Mr. Henderson, who gave a nod. "Frankly, ma'am, it sounds like you need to maybe head home and focus on, say, your ongoing divorce proceedings instead of harassing your neighbors." Oof, that hit a nerve. Karen's face went from furious red to a sort of blotchy purple. She sputtered, tried to argue, but the officer just gave her the look. Defeated, she grabbed her dog's leash and practically stomped off down the street, muttering about incompetent police and the decline of society. The officers gave me an apologetic nod, told me to have a good day, and left. I watched Karen retreat, a small, angry speck in the distance. Then I picked up my beer, took a long pull, and got back to painting. Some days you just can't make this stuff up. And yeah, I probably could have been a jerkbag, but honestly, seeing her face when the cop mentioned the divorce was satisfaction enough.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
All right, r/IDontWorkHereLady, settle in. Got a classic for you today that still makes me chuckle even though it was pretty annoying at the time. I'm Julian, and this is the story of the woman who decided I was her personal train police. So picture this, I was just trying to have a peaceful train ride home. Had my comfy seat, my noise-canceling headphones on, just lost in a podcast. You know the drill, trying to block out the world. Suddenly I feel a yank, hard, my headphones are ripped right off my head. I jump, startled, and there's this woman standing over me. She's got that look, you know, the one that screams, "I'm entitled and you're about to be the target." Before I could even react or ask why she just assaulted my ears, she shoves the headphones back into my hands and starts barking. You need to do something about these people." I blinked at her, holding my now silent headphones. What people?" She points dramatically down the aisle. "Them, the ones sleeping, they're taking up seats." Okay, so the train wasn't packed, but yeah, a few people were snoozing across empty seats. Annoying maybe, but definitely not my problem. I'm just a dude with headphones. "Ma'am," I started, trying to be polite and retrieve my lost podcast equilibrium. "I don't actually work for the train company." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Don't lie to me, I know you people, get them up." I sighed, this was going exactly nowhere good. "Seriously, I don't, I'm just a passenger like you." That didn't compute for her. She leaned in, her voice getting louder. "Oh yes, you do. You need to tell them they can't sleep like that, and if they don't move, you need to arrest them." Now that got me. Arrest them for sleeping on a train. I honestly couldn't help it. A little snort laugh escaped. "Ma'am, I can assure you I have zero authority to arrest anyone, let alone for sleeping. I'm not law enforcement, and I don't work for the train line." My amusement just seemed to fuel her fire. "This is ridiculous. Fine, where's your badge number? I want your name. I'm reporting you for not doing your job." She was getting genuinely agitated now, and honestly I was starting to feel a little less amused and a lot more uncomfortable. She was loud, drawing attention, and clearly not processing anything I was saying. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite my rising annoyance, "I don't have a badge number because I don't work here. You need to talk to an actual conductor or security if there's a problem." She wasn't buying it, not one bit. She fumbled in her bag. "Fine, I'll call security myself, and I'll tell them you're refusing to identify yourself." At this point, I realized this wasn't going to end with her just walking away. She was digging in, creating a scene, and seemed determined to make me the villain. My quiet train ride fantasy was officially dead. Okay, two can play at this game. "You know what?" I said, pulling out my own phone. "You go right ahead and call security. In fact, I think I will too, because frankly, someone needed to handle her." I dialed the transit security number while she was busy dialing hers, glaring at me. I quickly explained the situation. Passenger harassing me, demanding I act as security, refusing to believe I don't work here, creating a disturbance. They said they'd dispatch someone to the train when it hit the next station. Sure enough, at the next stop, two transit security officers got on and made their way towards us. The woman immediately lit up, pointing at me. "Finally, officers, this man here is an employee and he's refusing to do anything about the people sleeping." and he won't give me his ID. The officers looked at her, then at me, then back at her. One of them calmly asked me my name, which I gave. He checked something on a small device. Ma'am, he said to the woman, his tone flat, this gentleman does not appear in our employee database. He is not an employee of the Transit Authority or our security detail. The woman's face went from triumphant to absolutely furious. What? That's impossible. He has to work here. Look at him. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, for the record, riveting employee uniform. He's not an employee, the officer repeated, his patience clearly wearing thin. Now you are causing a disturbance. We've also had previous complaints about you harassing passengers. This is where she pivoted in a way that was so insane, it was almost admirable. Her eyes landed on my headphones, which I was still holding. He stole my headphones, she shrieked, pointing at me again. He ripped them off my head and won't give them back. Arrest him. The officers exchanged a look. One of them turned to me. Sir, is she claiming those are hers? I held them up. These are mine. She ripped them off my head when she first approached me because she wanted my attention. I've been trying to get them back properly, but she started demanding I wake people up and then called you. The officers seemed to process this, likely comparing it to the call I made and their existing knowledge of her. Ma'am, one officer said, turning back to her, he called us stating you were harassing him and took his property. Now you're claiming his property is yours. She started sputtering, doubling down on the theft accusation. The officers exchanged another look, this one more serious. They clearly weren't buying her sudden change of story, especially given her history. They ended up taking her off the train. I heard them explaining something about making a false report in the original harassment complaint. As they led her away, still loudly protesting and occasionally glancing back at me, I just put my headphones back on. It was the most ridiculous interaction. She came looking for someone to boss around, decided it was me, wouldn't take. I don't work here for an answer, escalated to demanding I arrest people, got caught in her own lie when security showed up, and ended up getting removed, possibly arrested herself. For harassment and filing a false report about my headphones that she had taken in the first place. The sheer beautiful irony. So yeah, sometimes standing your ground and making the actual authorities handle the situation is the way to go. Especially when the entitled person is building their own little legal trap for themselves. Thanks for reading, stay safe out there, and may your train rides be quiet and free of self-appointed conductors.
Hey Reddit, Curtis here. I've been a long-time lurker, but a thing that happened a while back has been rattling around in my head, and I figured this was the place to share it. So for context, my day job is with an unarmed security company. Don't get too excited, it's not as cool as it sounds. We're basically human scarecrows in slightly more authoritative polo shirts. We get the uniform, the badge, the stern look, but no actual weapons. Our main power is the ability to say, "Sir, please calm down," in a deep voice and hope for the best. Most days, it's just pointing people toward the restrooms. Anyway, I was off the clock, wandering through one of those massive superstores that sells everything from bananas to big-screen TVs. My sister's birthday was coming up, and I was on a mission to find her something better than the gift card I usually resort to. I'm deep in thought, debating the merits of a fancy candle versus a ridiculously fluffy blanket, when I get that prickly feeling on the back of my neck. You know the one. The someone is staring feeling. I glance up and my eyes land on a young woman, maybe early 20s, a few aisles over. She wasn't just browsing, she was terrified. She was doing that thing where you pretend to be fascinated by a wall of cheap coffee makers, but your eyes are darting everywhere. Her purse was clutched to her chest like a life raft, knuckles white. Our eyes met for a split second, and I saw a flash of pure panic in hers before she quickly looked away. My work mode kind of flickered on. I wasn't on duty, but you don't just unsee that kind of fear. I decided to just keep shopping, but I kept an eye out. A moment later, I saw him. He was a tall, greasy-looking guy who was trying way too hard to look casual, shadowing her every move. When she'd moved to a new aisle, he'd follow a few seconds later, a smirk plastered on his face. She must have decided I was her best bet, because she made a beeline for me, her steps quick and quiet. "Excuse me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I know this is so weird, but can you please pretend you know me? This guy has been following me since I walked in." I don't work here, I started to say out of habit, then caught myself. But yeah, of course. Don't worry, I've got you. The relief that washed over her face was immediate. I told her to walk with me toward the front of the store, and I'd walk her to her car. We started heading for the main aisle, and I instinctively put myself between her and the direction the creep was in. We almost made it. Hey, where do you think you're going? A voice boomed behind us. It was him. He'd closed the distance and was now blocking our path, that smug smirk replaced with an ugly scowl. He completely ignored me and locked his eyes on her. I was trying to talk to you. A little rude to just walk away, don't you think? The entitlement was dripping from every word. He genuinely believed she owed him her time. Before she could even squeak out a reply, I stepped forward slightly, making my presence known. I used my calm, professional security voice. She's not interested, man. Time for you to walk away. He finally looked at me, sizing me up. Who the hell are you? Her boyfriend. Mind your own business, pal. This is a private conversation. It's not a conversation when one person is clearly terrified, I said, keeping my tone level. She asked you to leave her alone. Now I'm telling you. Leave. This is where he completely lost it. His face went betrayed. You can't tell me what to do. You think you're some kind of tough guy. Who do you think you are, store security? The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. He started screaming, waving his arms around, calling me every name in the book. People were stopping their carts to stare. A kid started crying. It was a whole scene. The young woman was practically hiding behind my back. Just as he took an aggressive step toward me, I heard a voice from the side. Sir, we need you to leave now. A store employee, bless her heart, had her phone to her ear and was already calling for the actual on-duty guards. A minute later, 2 actual security guards and a manager showed up. They were not the scarecrow type like me. These guys looked like they meant business. They immediately got between us and the creep, who was still sputtering about his rights to talk to a pretty girl. They got him restrained and started taking statements. The young woman, shaking but composed, explained that she'd never seen him before in her life. Then the manager turned to me. And you, sir, were you involved? Nope, I said, finally letting myself relax. I was just trying to buy a birthday present for my sister. I gestured to my very non-uniform-like jeans and t-shirt. Funny enough, he asked if I was security. I am, just not here. Different company, different polo shirt. The manager cracked a smile, the guards let out a small chuckle, and the whole situation just deflated. They took the entitled creep to their office to wait for the police. After they were gone, the woman turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You have no idea. I was so scared I didn't know what to do. I just shrugged. No problem, just glad I was in the right place at the right time. After all that adrenaline, I completely forgot what I was even looking for. I ended up just getting my sister a gift card after all. She loved it, so I guess it all worked out. It's wild, though, how your day job instincts can kick in when you're just trying to figure out if someone is a lavender vanilla or ocean breeze person. TLDR. While off-duty, I used my unarmed security guard de-escalation skills on an entitled creep who was harassing a woman in a store. He ironically screamed, "Who do you think you are, security?" right before actual security showed up and removed him. I became a temporary hero and still managed to fail at birthday shopping.
Feel like keeping it going? Here's a solid pick.